University Online. Powered by Small Business Expo, America's largest business trade show and conference for small business owners. Please be sure to check out our complete webinar schedule and all on-demand recordings from previous webinars on smallbusinessuniversity.online. All of our webinars are full of incredible information to help you grow your business. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available within 24 hours on smallbusinessuniversity.online. In order to ensure optimal sound and video quality during this presentation, please make sure you are logged in using the latest version of Google Chrome. If you encounter any technical issues during the webinar, we suggest that you log out and log back in to reset your system. And now, I'm very excited to introduce today's webinar. Please take it away.
Hey, Gil, you're on mute right now.
Sorry about that. All right. Welcome to today's webinar, everyone. Small Business University Competing with Giants 2024 HR Outsourcing Tactics for Small Business Success, hosted by Peo-marketplace.com. Before we get into any introductions or agenda, I want to start off with this thought. There are two universal truths to any business. They must have the mastery and balance over financial capital, be able to make money and manage it correctly, and human capital, attract, retain, and manage top employees correctly, right? But oftentimes businesses are so focused on the financial capital side of things that it overshadows the human capital side. And what they don't realize is that out of the two, human capital has a unique ability of driving exponential growth within the business without putting a huge strain on the financial capital side of it if leveraged correctly. I wanted to set the table this way for today's webinar and have you guys start thinking about this when it pertains to your own business. All right. So a quick agenda for today. We'll get into introductions, who I am and who Peo-marketplace is. We'll talk a little bit about understanding the current business landscape, challenges small, medium businesses face, the role of HR within the organization, overview of HR outsourcing and what that is. We'll dive into some key tactics, right? Being able to align HR strategies with overall business goals. I'll share a case study with you all. We'll talk about different levels of HRO, right? Human resource outsourcing, and ROI and what that may look like for you. And then we'll wrap up at the end and we'll open it up for any questions with a live Q&A in the chat. So if you have any questions, that'll be the time to use the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer it. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Guillermo Triana. I'm the founder and Chief Everything Officer of Peo-marketplace. I'm also a managing partner at PBW and HR. That's a firm that does managed payroll and workers' comp for specific for small businesses. I have over a decade in payroll, HCM, PEO, and HR outsourcing space. And I'm a graduate of Florida International University with my MBA. Go Cats. Let's see. All right. So who is Peo-marketplace.com? So Peo-marketplace.com, very simply, we're an online B2B HR services marketplace that connects employers or small to medium-sized businesses with their ideal HR outsourcing provider, right? And our mission is to create a better HR buying experience for businesses that is frictionless, transparent, and empowers businesses to make smarter HR outsourcing decisions and be able to decide for themselves whether it's something that fits them or doesn't fit them. All right. So if you look at your screen, you'll probably see a couple of familiar logos here. These are a couple of our marketplace partners that are all housed within Peo-marketplace. So you could probably think of Peo-marketplace as a very simply kind of like an eBay, but for HR outsourcing services for businesses is probably an easy way to think of us. So now that we've talked a little bit about who we are, who I am, I want to jump into understanding the current landscape for small to medium-sized businesses, what that looks like today. And I want to start off by sharing a couple common challenges that small businesses are facing today. So no surprise here, financial resources is one challenge. Most small businesses operate on a tight budget, and what this does is it limits their opportunity to invest in growth, marketing, or even new technology, right? AI is artificial intelligence is a big buzzword going on today. Small businesses, because of their lack in financial services or financial resources rather, it's tough to develop those innovations in-house. Another challenge, market fluctuations, right? So small businesses are less resilient to weather economic downturn versus much larger competitors. And if you think back to the COVID pandemic, a lot of small businesses shut down because of it. Another challenge, attracting and retaining skilled staff. It's no surprise that larger corporations have deeper pockets. They're able to offer higher salaries, richer benefits, opportunities for advancements, and that in the eyes of the workforce makes them an attractive employer. It's tough as a small business to compete against that. Especially with today's environment where a lot of employees they treasure certain perks at work. Like, for example, a lot of employees prefer remote work, right? And they will leave to a competitor for richer benefits, or even something as small as small pay increase, right? Couple other challenges that are faced by small medium businesses face in the department of HR. A lot of small businesses don't have a formal HR department, and it's usually someone that doesn't have any formal HR background handling that function. And then what ends up happening most of the time is that it leads to that individual or those individuals being overworked and potential burnout. Something interesting here that I wanted to share, according to SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resources Management, they say there's a ratio of HR staff to employee, which is 1.7 HR staff per 100 employees, right? So if you think about it, as a small business, let's say with 50 employees, you can see that according to this ratio, there might not be any true HR within the business, within the small business, which, again, could lead to burnout and inefficiencies with, how you use your time, or how, maybe even the business owner who's wearing the HR hat uses their time effectively. Less time for strategic planning. You're spending more time working in the business than actually working on the business and focusing on growth initiatives. And last but not least, brand recognition. Larger competitors of yours have deeper pockets. They can spend on marketing, and small businesses got to rely on, word of mouth, local reputation, which, could ultimately take up a lot of time to build, right? So now that we've talked about, some of the common challenges that small, medium businesses face, you learned about us, what we do, who we are, who I am. I want to talk about, how you can, view your HR within your business a little bit differently, right? And in doing so, help you start to level out the playing field when it comes to, competing against larger corporations, larger companies within your industry, within your space. Okay. So in order to do that, you first have to understand, within your business, what's the true role of HR. Okay. And you got to understand what HR is in order to understand what HR outsourcing is, right? So you got to understand one first before the other. So most companies, they see HR as a necessary administrative burden, okay? But, small to medium-sized businesses that see HR as a business partner includes HR in their executive meetings, and allows HR to create and foster a thriving culture within their business, are likely to have highly productive staff, thus leading to a healthier bottom line for the company, okay? Generally, there are two buckets that, within an organization that HR functions in, right? So on one side, you have traditional HR, and on the other side, you have modern HR. 80% of small businesses view HR and have HR function in a traditional sense, okay? What does that mean? Well, traditional HR, they create execution, order, and control within the business. They're the quote unquote police of the organization. They focus on transactional work, such as payroll, time and attendance, compensation, benefit management, that sort of thing. They execute upon the strategy that they're given, right, from the top down. They're behind the eight ball when it comes to technology and not really a huge proponent of it. They're more reactive than proactive, and thus, more passive and service oriented. And they're focused on the organization of the business. Okay. On the other end, we have modern HR. Okay. This type of approach within a business is something that you see in a lot of businesses that are growing, that have a thriving culture, right? Because this type of HR creates adaptability, innovation, and speed within the business. This type of HR also emphasizes and encourages, coaches to have coaches, mentors, and thought leaders. The employee experience is a very big key focus for this type of HR, and they understand that having a good employee experience leads to, better productivity, better retention for the business. Modern HR helps executive leadership shape and lead strategy from a people perspective. They're a big proponent of technology because they understand technology can help them, with innovation and speed. They're proactive in their people management, and they're focused on the business of the organization rather than the organization of the business. So now you kind of understand in a general sense, what are the two main functions or main approaches to HR within a business, especially small to mid-sized business. You have to understand that you can't have one without the other, okay? Traditional HR, you have to master that first before, a business jumps into and is able to tap into modern HR, okay? So everything that has to do with, transaction work, all that stuff, that needs to be buttoned up. Then once that's mastered, now a business can start to implement and start to, dance around that modern HR. And once they're able to fully master that, that's when, productivity goes up, revenue goes up, customers are happy, right? The internal culture is really good at the company. So I wanted to give you guys an idea of, the two type of HR and start to think, hey, which HR bucket does my business fall into? Okay. Now that we kind of understand, what the true role of HR is, we need to understand, the HR outsourcing overview. What is that? So by definition, HR outsourcing is a strategic practice that involves hiring external service providers to manage HR functions and tasks on behalf of the business. So in other words, a business would hire an expert in HR, either an individual or a firm, to help them with, their internal HR, so that business can focus on what they're good at, which is their core competency, and what makes them revenue, right? And the whole purpose of doing this is, to drive greater efficiency, reduce costs, right? Cost savings, and improve the overall performance of the organization. Now, why would organizations outsource? Well, let me give you the top 5 reasons why, small to medium businesses outsource HR functions. All right. So number one, I touched upon this on the last slide. Cost reduction. HR outsourcing can can be cost effective, more cost effective than maintaining an in-house HR department. Quite frankly, small to medium-sized businesses that have tight budgets already, they might not have the capability or the resources to staff a full HR team. Okay, so that's one reason. Second reason is access to expertise. External HR providers bring specialized knowledge and experience in ensuring best practices are followed. The latest HR innovations are also applied within your business. Compliance and risk management. These HR firms, they stay abreast of changing employment laws and regulations, helping businesses minimize their legal risk and ensuring compliance. In other words, these type of businesses and companies, they specialize in the business of employment, which if you have employees, you inherit it. So you have to make sure that that side of your business is running on all cylinders. Number 4, focus on core business activities. This is something that I also touched on, and it's also a given. By outsourcing some HR functions, companies concentrate on their primary business operation, driving innovation and driving growth. And then last but not least, scalability. Outsource HR services, can easily be scaled up or down based on, your business's needs. It provides flexibility and supports growth without having to necessarily take on, additional internal HR costs and having to expand internal HR capabilities. So those are the top 5 reasons from, what we've seen, why small to medium businesses look at outsourcing HR, at least initially. So now that we've talked about the true role of HR, and you kind of have an idea of, the 2 buckets and, how that plays within your business, and then, and have a good overview of what HR outsourcing is, let's talk about, some key HR outsourcing tactics that you can use within your business starting today. You can implement and, see if that will lead you to the goals and the overall strategy that you're trying to accomplish within your business. So you got to understand your business goals, right? You really got to understand that like the back of your hand. Driving strategic plans and thoroughly understanding the company's strategic plans, objectives, challenges. This involves close collaboration with your senior management to grasp the future direction of the business. Key performance indicators, right? These are metrics that are important to your business that you look at that tell you, whether you're doing good or bad. It's like your scorecard for the business, and what areas you're doing well at, what areas can look at implementing some improvements. You got to also assess your current HR capabilities, right? Do a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is an analysis that evaluates strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Make it specific to your your internal HR functions in relation to your company's overall strategic goals. Pinpoint areas where the current HR capabilities fall short of what is needed, and what is needed to support the business objectives. Strategic recruitment. Plan to recruit and fill gaps in capabilities and bring in new talent that aligns with your future business direction. Also design a training program that develops the skills and competencies of employees that need to meet the current and future business demand. We look at foster a supportive culture, right? This plays, and this is a big part in retaining employees, developing a culture that supports obviously the business goals, but that also incorporates innovation, quality, and customer focus or agility. Implementing for engagement and retention, implementing programs that engage employees with the company's mission, and retain those who are critical to achieving, these objectives. A couple more tactics for you, continued here. Implementing strategic HR policies. Okay, keyword there is strategic, right? When you create an HR policy that directly supports the achievement of business goals, such as flexible work policies, or to drive innovation, or learning and development opportunities to enhance service quality, those are the type of strategic HR policies that I refer to, not the you'll be here on time, this is the work hour. That's not what I'm talking about. Benefits alignment, you got to make sure that depending on the type of employees and the type of talent that you're trying to bring in through the door, and what your goal is for the company, you got to make sure that your benefits and your benefits package align and support your strategic goals. For example, offering professional development or mentorship program is a really great way to do that. It's strategy focused, and it's innovative as well. There's been really good feedback from employees liking that. Obviously, you also have to have an open bridge of communication to ensure there's ongoing communication between HR and the other departments, maintain alignment as business strategy evolves. Too many times, small businesses, right, small medium-sized businesses, they like to silo their different departments, right? So you've got HR over here, then you've got marketing over here, then you've got finance over here, right? But companies that are thriving and that are growing, they understand that everyone, regardless of what department or what function you have, they all have the same business strategy. So it only makes sense to have an open line communication and make sure that everyone is collaborating accordingly. Use HR analytics, right? Measure, and measure. You got to utilize HR analytics to measure the effectiveness of your HR initiatives and how it aligns to your business goals. This could include metrics on employee productivity, the impact of training programs that you've implemented, the impact of performance reviews, that sort of thing, right? Or the ROI of your current recruiting strategies or your future recruiting strategies, right? What does that look like? It's important to implement feedback loops, right? Establishing a feedback loop where it's a 360 feedback loop where HR analytics informs and provides business the information to your overall business strategy, so you can go off of real-time metrics, right? Or vice versa. That just ensures that there's continuous alignment between your strategy and your different functions within your business. And then monitor and adjust, right? So you constantly have to review and align the strategies with from an HR perspective to your business goals, and making sure that the business environment and the objectives click. And being able, one thing that's really unique and kind of a blessing for small to medium sized businesses is that you can move agile versus some of the larger competitors. So whether that means having to pivot strategies or pivot in another sense, or responding to external factors, that's something that small businesses have an advantage of over some of the larger competitors who are a little bit more sluggish because of their size. So now that we've talked about some key HR tactics, we've talked about the role of HR, and we've talked about HR outsourcing. Let's kind of put that together in a case study for a company that's called TechStart Solutions. Okay, so I want to walk through this case study with you guys so you understand kind of how this all plays in, and maybe this applies to you. Who knows? So just to give you a background on TechStart Solutions. So TechStart is a mid-sized company, a software developer in Austin, Texas. They were facing challenges scaling operations to meet growing market demand. They already had a pretty talented pool of engineers and developers, but they were struggling with high employee turnover, uneven performance across their teams. And, as time went on, there was widening skill gaps between, some of their top engineers and top developers, which are, their top employees, to some of the more entry-level entry-level employees. So that was becoming an issue, was taking up a lot of time, and was, robbing them of, becoming a major competitor within their respective market. So the challenge, was aligning HR strategy with their growth targets. The HR practices, like most small businesses, were mainly administrative, lacking any real strategic input. This led to ineffective talent management, a lack of employee engagement, and, no real leadership development or no real leadership development program. This hindered the company's ability to scale and innovate. Their objective was, to overhaul the area HR strategy to, really pinpoint and truly support their business objectives, right? And they had some pretty lofty objectives. They wanted to, increase and double their product development capacity. They wanted to enter, new markets within 2 years, and they wanted to be seen as an employer of choice within the tech business, which is highly, highly competitive for talent. The solution? Well, they implemented a strategic workforce planning. They conducted first audits of their current capabilities and future needs. They implemented a recruiting plan for high talented individuals, high talented employees within the tech space. They launched a program for future leadership, right? So leadership and development. And they emphasized a lot on soft skills and strategic thinking, right? Which lends to, internal company innovation. They redesigned their performance management to align with business goals. They introduced a 360 feedback, right? Continuous loop for constant communication and that bridge between, different functions of the business. Their employee engagement and retention strategy. They implemented a benefits package that, included a flexible work environment. They leveraged their specific approach is that they leveraged a professional employee organization to help them do that. And then on the HR analytics side, being in the tech space, analytics, they like to look at numbers. So, they leveraged a PEO to help them do that and implement that type of technology specific to their business. And that gave them a lot of insights into their people and into their staff. The results: employee turnover reduced by 40%, right? Lowering their recruiting and training costs, which is a big cost for, any business, especially a small business. Product development time for them shortened by 20%. They were able to successfully enter 2 new markets, and they increased their work capacity and be able to take on work by 25%. And they were able to be recognized as a top workplace in Austin for the tech space. So I hope this kind of brings everything together that I've been talking about as far as HR and HR outsourcing and, innovation in a really concise way in a case study. And maybe, it resonates with you, or, someone that it resonates with. So now that we've gone through that case study, I want to kind of share with you, there's different levels to HR outsourcing, right? Kind of like, with most other things, there's different levels, and depending on, your specific business, where you're at in your trajectory, one level may work, versus another. There's no right or wrong answer here. There's just, you got to look internally to see, what makes the most sense for your specific business. But I like to share that, most businesses don't know that there's levels to HR outsourcing. So this is a slide that I like to share and kind of, paint a picture for you as you kind of grow and go through your own, journey. What does HR, look like from a level perspective, and what makes sense for our business? So, level 1 is no HR outsourcing, right? No outsourcing at all. So this is, you're handling HR internally. Maybe you have, staff internally that works for you, have more control over your HR functions. that may or may not work for you, and every business just depends, right, on the business. Level two is off-the-shelf HR software. So we see businesses in level two that start to realize they're a small business, and they start to realize that hey, this HR these HR tasks are taking away a little bit too much time from what we're really trying to focus to do and what we're trying to accomplish. So they go out and they buy an off-the-shelf software. I just found out that QuickBooks offers an HR, kind of like a light HR feature as part of their payroll offering, which is pretty cool, and could benefit a lot of smaller mom and pop shops, to help them with their HR HR dilemmas. Level three is outsourcing to an HR firm. So this is when the HR component starts to kick in. This HR outsourcing could be to an individual, maybe a fractional HR professional, right? That's an individual, or it could be an HR consulting firm that small business decides to outsource some of their HR tasks to, and that these firms help develop or improve your HR procedures and your policies, like your handbooks and that sort of thing. Level four is an HR outsourcing level is payroll service provider. So a lot of time, and this is probably one of the more common ones, depending on the size of the business. But this mainly focuses on technology only. So they're still having to take on the liability for any type of HR, but the technology is depending on the provider, could be robust enough to help automate a lot of repetitive administrative tasks from an HR perspective. And then level five is a PEO, which is a professional employee organization. This is more of a done for you HR outsourcing approach, which may or may not be a fit for every business. In this level, the PEO would take first position in all of the HR and employee administration tasks under the direction of you as a small, medium-sized business, right? So it's probably the most outsourcey one, if that's a word. From an ROI perspective, this is what most companies can look at. So we broke it down by internal 100% insourcing HR, and then all the way out to outsourcing HR through a PEO. The ROI for a specific business will depend on your current HR structure, your company trajectory, your view of HR, possible improvements that any given solution can have an impact on your company, and then obviously your budget as a small business. ROIs to consider outside of hard dollar costs, and keep in mind, guys, this is a conceptual ROI. You have to run your own ROI analysis, or have someone help you do that to really find out what the hard dollar cost of an ROI is, and if it makes sense to do any of these. But ROIs, or return on investment, to consider outside of hard dollar costs, is obviously your time spent on HR administrative, employee administrative tasks versus working on the business. Your risk of errors, right, which are high depending on what approach you have or what approach you implement. The level of compliance liability your company is comfortable in handling, right? What does that look like? And then, as you can see here, if you look at just the infographic here, over to the left, you'll see the different levels of whether it's time spent, errors, compliance for running HR internally, or all the way on the right hand side, what that looks like I mentioned on the previous slide, what it looks like for a done for you HR solution. And then it really depends what you're looking for, what you're looking to achieve, and then obviously your budget and what your financial status is for your company, and and then figuring out what makes sense for you as a business. So I've been talking a lot. I hope you guys aren't feeling like this guy right here with a lot of thoughts going through your head and you're trying to figure out a complicated equation. It's not complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's something that you got to break down piece by piece and start, by taking a look internally and, talking with your team and figuring out, okay, what is it that we want to do? Do we want to have things in-house? Do we want to, have things, outsource certain functions, or do we want a mix of both, right? There's no right or wrong answer here. It just depends on your business. And, just one last thing, just remember, right? Your balance sheet might categorize your top employees or your labor under the liability category, but they are the only ones that have the ability to double or your revenue or even more and not be shown as an asset on the asset line item. Just remember, smart HR is an enabler for your company. That's pretty much it for me. I really want to thank you for your time today. You can obviously contact us, click or call us if you have any questions, anything like that. And, at this time, I'd like to open it up for, any questions that we had during the presentation. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to take a look here in the chat, see if there's anyone that has any questions. Don't be shy. No right or wrong answers. Thank you, Deshauna. Hope it was educational for you. No questions? Okay. I think, Lila, I did a really good job today. Got no questions. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Like I said, you can always reach out to me, and hope to see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for the informative presentation. We really enjoyed it. As a reminder, this webinar was recorded and will be available on demand within 24 hours on smallbusinessuniversity.online. Please remember to frequently check out our webinar schedule on smallbusinessuniversity.online for other great weekly business building webinars. Thank you all for joining us and have a great rest of your day.